All right, we'll try to get started on time. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Does it feel different in the state capitol with everybody gone? My first day, and I've been late, so it's still been busy. But, well, thanks, everybody, for being here. It's an incredible pleasure and privilege for me to introduce our new Director of Economic Development. This is really a significant position for state government and for the state of Nebraska. Just a little perspectives. It's the agency's responsibility to encourage growth within the state of Nebraska. It means identifying business investment potentials, assisting business owners with expansion efforts, strengthening community-based developments, initiatives, and compiling data that helps identify areas and guides and decision-making processes. The director oversees a number of divisions and programs within the department, all focused on two simple words: growing Nebraska. In addition, this position works with other state agencies, in particular like the Department of Agriculture, to identify business and development and trade opportunities. The director also maintains close ties with all of our chambers of commerce across the state and works hard for local and international business contacts as a means to promote the state, to grow our workforce, and identify impediments that might keep business from locating here. About Nebraska, right? What makes Nebraska a great place? It boasts the traits of to invest in. It's our quality of life. It's the incredible workforce and integrity of our people. And we have a cutting-edge business environment in the state of Nebraska. And as I love to keep talking about, it's always about the people of Nebraska. We have innovators, entrepreneurs, and risk takers that have created extraordinary wealth across our state. And I think maybe the next director also has to be a chief bragging officer with me, because it's important we start bragging a lot more about how extraordinary business opportunities there are and great opportunities to make sure we keep all of our kids here. About our next director, Casey Baylitz. Casey brings the perfect experience and an enthusiasm and energy to lead the Department of Economic Development and Market and Sell Nebraska. Casey is currently the Chief Operating Officer with Nebraska Community Foundation. In that role, he's been responsible for identifying financial opportunities and promoting programs that will help build stronger communities across the state. Prior to that position, Casey was president of Columbus Area Chamber of Commerce for nearly 2 decades, spearheading business community development, and grew membership from a small number to over 800 members in the Columbus area and region. Casey has served on numerous community and state boards. He understands firsthand the various needs of the state and concerns in rural and urban communities when it comes to issues like maintaining a stable workforce, keeping our kids here, attracting business, growing our businesses. Casey has relationships across the state. Our whole team has been focused on relationships and results from day one, and I couldn't be more excited to add Casey to our team. Congratulations, Casey. Thank you.
Thank you, Governor, and thanks to all of you for joining us this afternoon. I think, you know, I've been telling kids for 25 years that grateful people are happy people, and the opposite is true as well. So I'm going to start with that gratitude this afternoon. And this will probably be the only time that the governor has to go second, because I'm going to start with gratitude for my beautiful bride, KOLN. I would not be standing here without her. That's a no-brainer. And so certainly grateful for her partnership. But after that, also grateful to the governor for the faith that he has shown and this extraordinary opportunity. There's no question that this is a bit of a surreal day for me after spending, you know, a quarter century doing community development work in our state, primarily in Columbus, but now all around the state. Speaking of that, I'm also certainly very grateful for the support and encouragement that I have received from around the state as we have contemplated this opportunity, and really grateful to be a part of the team at DED. You know, it's obviously an organization, an agency that I've worked around for a long time and have always had just deep respect for. And so now to have an opportunity to be on that team, as I said, it really is a bit surreal. And I think particularly at this moment in time, and related to what the governor was just talking about, I firmly believe that this is the time for us to brag about Nebraska. We have, I would suggest, an opportunity for a real renaissance in rural places generally, and so certainly that applies to the state of Nebraska. I say that for probably three reasons. Number one, you know, if you look at the last census, there were reasons for hope in lots of places around rural Nebraska in that 10-year period that we hadn't seen for a very long time. At Nebraska Community Foundation, we've conducted Nebraska youth surveys with high school students all across our state, about 3,000 in the last 3 years. And it is clear across the board that the centennial generation, the kids who are in college and high school and younger, they very much want what we have in rural places like the state of Nebraska. And so they're going to be the most receptive audience to that bragging that we've had access to in a very long time. And then we have this, again, from a Nebraska Community Foundation perspective, what we've seen clearly is we have this massive opportunity with an intergenerational transfer of wealth that's going to put financial resources at our disposal if we can capture some of those and put them to use in these hometowns. We really have that big three opportunities in front of us here. Obviously, DED is going to be a key part of maximizing that opportunity. And so we have something of a vision that I know that we share in terms of what's ahead for Department of Economic Development. First, build on our assets. The governor was just talking about all the things that we have that are good and strong in Nebraska. Those are the places we should build. So we're going to build on our assets. And that certainly includes existing Nebraska businesses, existing Nebraska entrepreneurs, and those who would like to be. I mean, we have extraordinary talent and innovation and work ethic and all of those things that exist in Nebraska businesses and entrepreneurs today. We're certainly going to want to maximize that opportunity. At the same time, I firmly believe you never put up the sign that indicates that we're not open for business. So that doesn't mean that recruitment doesn't continue and we keep going out and welcoming other people and businesses to Nebraska. Certainly, we will continue to do that as well. And that really does start with our kids that the governor referred to. We are going to make sure they know that they are welcome and needed to be in the state of Nebraska. So that's number one, building on our assets. Number two, serving our customers, right? I mean, DED has a variety of customers and partners that the agency serves, and we're going to certainly try to find ways to say yes first as opposed to saying no first. At the same time, obviously, I also understand there's rules and there's guidelines and there's things that we live with as a state agency, and so the customer may not always be right. Well, let's say the customer is usually right. The customer is assumed to be right, something along those lines. So we're going to be interested in really being great about serving our customers. And then third, and it really does line up very nicely with the governor's comments, is really being Nebraska's front door and recruitment team. That's what I have always perceived the team at DED to be, both businesses and, of course, today, critically important, for people. People attraction has got to be job one. We all know there's tens of thousands of open jobs today in our state that we need to get filled with talented people who want to join the team in Nebraska. And it seems clear in that environment that, boy, if you create more Nebraskans, you're probably going to be pretty successful creating more jobs along the way. And that, I think, leads me to what I also believe to be true in that space, and that's that because of that really driving factor of workforce development and people attraction, economic development, workforce development, community development have never been closer together than they are today. If there's a line between those three, it's pretty gray, right? I mean, those of us who've been around this for a long time, I think would all agree it's changed dramatically in the last number of years. And so in that environment, I think it really opens up new partnerships or enhanced partnerships that can really be effective for us as a state and for us as an agency, and we're certainly going to pursue those aggressively. You know, things that economic developers never thought they were going to have to deal with 10 or 20 years, right? Housing and childcare. Do you think about a lot of those things? No, we never did. And today, clearly, it is part of the puzzle. So those issues that make us the cheerleaders, the front door, the recruitment team for the state of Nebraska, both for people and businesses, are going to be key to what's going forward. Having said all that, I also want to make sure that it's clear that you know, I'm well aware I don't know enough today to come in with any particular grandiose or detailed plans. My first job is going to be listening and learning to the people in the agency, to the people who partner with the agency. There's no question that that has to be how I spend the time first off. And from there, we will build a plan that follows that vision. I think throughout my career, one of the things that my hometown of Columbus has taught me is the need to collaborate. And that's true internally with the team at DED. It's going to be true externally as well. On a personal level, I'll close with this since I've been given the privilege of the microphone for a minute. Always had a goal to use whatever time I'm given in this life to the best of my ability, and this feels like a step in that direction. What an extraordinary opportunity to make life better for those around me. And when my dad died in 1995, I made a promise to him and to myself that I would follow his legacy of doing exactly that, making life better for people around me. And so this is an extraordinary gift for me personally and professionally to be put into a position where hopefully I can do that for the people who are on the team internally, but really for Nebraskans writ large. And that it really is an extraordinary opportunity, and I could not be more grateful to be standing here today. Thank you, Governor.
Congratulations. Dawson, would you come up, please?
Thank you, Governor. And today is truly an exciting day for the state of Nebraska as we welcome a former chamber executive and a man that has been across the state helping communities find their resources to grow for generations to come in KC. As chambers across the state, I'm here today on behalf of the Nebraska Chambers Association, which represents chambers of Lincoln and Omaha to Falls City, McCook, South Sioux, many chambers across the state. And we are all excited. KC is the Nebraska definition for community development. And following the historic and transformational tax cuts that have taken place in Nebraska, passed by the legislature and signed into law by Governor Pillen, we can really focus on each of our individual communities and what it takes to make Nebraska competitive for generations to come. So with the vision of working with our youth, our greatest resource, and growing our communities, we are just excited to welcome KC. Thank you for your willingness to serve, and we look forward to the partnership for years to come.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Casey, and I'd also like to thank the Lincoln Chambers and Omaha Chambers for being here today and your support. Certainly want to take before I take a couple questions, want to take a minute to thank Joe Fox. Joe, for stepping in and serving in as the interim director position and working day and night, and we've had several meetings, and just as you're not only the interim and you're engaged with international folks and local development, and we're really grateful for your work, and we're going to have a great team moving forward. So thank you very much, Joe. Appreciate it. I think, and then maybe the last piece is Joe will continue on as the interim until July 5th when Casey officially starts, and we'll be happy to take any, so again, thank you, Joe, and be happy to take any questions.
Governor, what kind of a search did you do to fill this position? I mean, you end up with one of your hometown buddies, I assume.
Yeah.
And so tell
Yeah, I'd say please don't refer to a lifelong Nebraskan that's dedicated his life to serving rural Nebraska as a hometown buddy. That couldn't be further from the truth. We went through this search just like every other search. The only difference probably would be that Lieutenant Governor Kelly wasn't involved in all the interviews because he was tied up to a seat that was pretty critical to having a successful legislative session. We had tremendous interest. We had a number of applicants. We interviewed 3 applicants, and obviously there were a couple things that were incredibly important to me. We need to have a director of economic development in the state that is committed to being a public servant to the state. Casey's lifetime's been being a public servant, number one. Number two, he's committed to serve in that role as long as numerous governors would have him. We got to stop the rubber ball bounce of the directors of economic development. We need a long-term economic development that maintains and creates the operational culture, which you obviously heard Casey talk about his lifetime and his view of all the operational excellence that needs to take place so that we can grow Nebraska. So we went through the process like every other appointment that we've done, and that's what we'll continue to do. Yes.
Can you tell me a little bit more about what specific experience and expertise Casey brings that you were looking for in that position? And secondly, could you also talk about how many people are on, he will be directing under the department? I believe it's grown in the last year or so, so how many staff members, what the budget is, and how that has grown as well.
Yeah.
Lots there, but
I think that there's a couple things in there. Number one, in terms of why Casey's been asked to serve, we believe it's really, really important that the next director has an extraordinary operational experience and leading teams of people and getting results. Really important. Casey's got a lifetime history of doing that in whatever role that he's been a part of. Really important to have a director that really understands how important a culture of an organization and a team is, and the Department of Economic Development's team needs to have an incredible focus on culture, understanding we are public servants and that operational excellence is important. It's going to be important to be out and about, but it's really important that we have operational excellence. Number 3, with ARPA funds and so forth, it'd be premature for me to talk about the budget and the teams. There's things that we need to get operationalized. We need ARPA funds to be able to get on the ground, and we need to make that happen quickly, and that'll be our plan. And that may not take place with members within the Department of Economic Development. So those are things that are really important. And bottom line is we need a team where strong on relationships, focused on results, and that we believe. Obviously, with Casey, there's no worry about having a meeting after the meeting. We'll have a team that understands. We're all committed to the vision and the greatness and what Nebraskans deserve, and that's why Casey's here.
Question for Casey. You mentioned signs of hope in the last census, and this being an opportunity for rural places throughout the country. What are you referring to?
Yeah, thank you for that. In terms of the census numbers, again, just for a brief bit of context, the reason that I know that Nebraska Community Foundation is working in 275 small towns around Nebraska. So that's the scope that we look at and have looked at. And so within those communities, not universally, but there are definitely a lot of places that are trending in the right direction in terms of population, in terms of income, other demographic sort of trends. A lot of young 25 to 44-year-olds are moving back to rural places in Nebraska. So for a lot of Nebraska's counties in the rural parts of the state, this last decade was among the best they've seen since either the 1920s or the 1970s. And in some cases going back even further than that. So there are real demographic signs of progress out there, and that's a key, not the only, but it is a key indicator that there's reason to be hopeful about that. And then again, if you talk about Nebraska's students, Nebraska's young people, we all know that we need to keep them, we need to attract them. And we're hearing it loud and clear in those surveys of Nebraska high school students. Largely, this is where they want to be. This is where they want to be adults and build a career and build a family.
What do you anticipate to be your biggest challenges in this new position?
Yeah, good question. I mean, certainly I'll reserve some judgment because I haven't been there yet, and I may not know the right answer yet. But generally speaking, you know, as has been alluded to, the department has had a lot on the plate, and when you have that and you have some of the turnover that the governor mentioned, that creates a challenge in just being as efficient and effective as you want to be. Again, I'm saying that obviously as an outsider, so I think helping provide the support, the resources, the culture that really makes that team really rock and roll, I think that's my job. That's job one.
What might you say is your biggest accomplishment in your past position, and how might that transfer into this new job?
You know what, I would say in all three of the careers that I've had so far, I think it really is building a team that stuck together, worked hard, and had a good time doing it, even though they were working hard, and created some stability. We did not have much turnover in any one of those instances. And now again, that's not the only factor that matters, but having some stability on a team so you can build a culture and build a positive culture. Boy, I think that's critically important. I think it is a nice fit for where we're headed at DED.
So back on the census, my recollection is that 70 counties in this state have been declining in population since the 30s, and 20 have been growing. Are you referring to a slowing of the depopulation?
Yes, in some cases, that's exactly right. There are some rural places that are growing, but yes, in many cases, it is just that the trend is finally beginning to see the change that we all need to see. Yeah, that's exactly right.
Calling once, calling twice?
Did you ever say how many employees there are then in the DED? I know there had been about 127. So with the changes that the legislature has made, how many will be under?
Yeah, so, you know, I'm not a politician, and that's an exact number I can't give you, so I'll have to get that to you later.
How about the salary?
Say it again?
Salary?
Salary of the KC would be commensurate to what the previous director was made.
What the previous director was making?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Anything else? All right. Well, thank you all for being here. We appreciate everybody's support, and congratulations, Casey.